So, I'm going to talk about depression and what it's like for me being in a dark hole. I'm sure there's somebody that will watch this video, probably at least a few people maybe that will see it that can relate. When you get in a deep, dark depression, you feel like you're in a pit, a dark pit of hell. Um, feel like you get so deep into that pit that you feel like you can't dig out. And I've been there for quite some time, in a bad depression. Um, Recently, I started going to therapy. Hadn't been to therapy in maybe, I don't know, probably 23, 24 years. I don't know, something like that. I'm 49. Um, I let things get to a point where I realized, okay, I'm going to have to do something, because if I don't do something about this, I'm not going to climb out of it. Now, luckily for me, I guess you could say it's lucky I don't have family. Well, I have my parents that live a few hours from me, but I don't have kids. I don't have a spouse. I don't have pets. I probably couldn't take care of the pets, to be honest with you. I've struggled at times. Basically, have kept my basic health together and not let that go too far. Not being able to hold work. Uh, so things just went way downhill. Something that's went on throughout my life, depression. It's come and gone. It's kind of like a toxic friend. I guess that could come in and out of your life. Maybe, I guess you could relate depression maybe that way in a sense. Sure, there's people that can relate how it's come in and out of their lives. I would say it come into my life in childhood. At some point, my childhood had a lot of chaos at times. Sometimes there was stability, but not for prolonged periods of time. A lot of bullying, traumas. I've had a lot of different traumas happen throughout my adult life as well. Um, and I think when you go through certain traumas, it triggers that depression. It can trigger it to come back, and sometimes it comes back in a very strong way. And unfortunately, in this day and time, there's a stigma still, not from everyone, but there's still a lot of people that stigmatize mental illness. And I was first diagnosed with depression at 17. I was diagnosed one time with bipolar, probably when I was 23 or 24. The therapist I see now hasn't diagnosed that, but she has diagnosed a prolonged depression. But I've only been going, I guess, for about the last 4 or 5 months. I was lucky to find a place that I could go to that doesn't charge me, because I can't afford it. And not being able to hold work and things like that. Sometimes depression gets so bad, people can't understand it that don't go through this. That's why I say it gets stigmatized. They don't understand, well, you look healthy, you look like you could function, you look like you're okay, so what's the problem? Sometimes they can be condescending. And I was like, well, I don't know. Ask Robin Williams what was wrong. Ask Chris Cornell, or some of these famous celebrities, or even some wealthy, rich people that have unalived, that are no longer here. Ask them why they were depressed. I mean, they had money, right? They had fame, money, some of them. Some of them had everything you could ever want, and physicality, right? Material goods, but they still had that hole inside of them, right? For me, it's like feeling dead inside. You can feel dead inside. Sometimes nothing excites you. I've gotten so bad with that before where, it's awful, where you can't feel anything. And I've sat in the dark before. I've sat in the dark for a few hours before because I couldn't feel, just like stare, or cry. I cry, men get stigmatized. I just don't care anymore for that sort of thing. One thing after going through this for years, I'm just now, maybe in the last year, learning what authenticity really is and more about vulnerability. And it's just like, you get to a point where you get older and you go through stuff like this and you realize, doesn't matter what these people think. You know what you're going through, you know what your experiences are. I guess that's why I'm talking about this too, is I know so many people, they're in a position like me, they're in pain, they go through this, and you don't want it, you don't ask for it. It's not something, who the hell would want something like this? It's a miserable experience. You don't want depression, you don't want bipolar, you don't want any of that kind of stuff. Sometimes I've thought I have a personality disorder, but I've not been diagnosed with such. But I will say I've never had a real core identity. That's why I say I've just kind of, in the last probably year, started to understand I really was never authentic either in my life. I had pieces of times where you would see the real me, but I was always having, because the way I was brought up, I would say, without a stable childhood in a lot of ways, things like that probably contributed to me not having a stable core identity, and then depression and all of that. So basically what you do with no identity, you borrow from other people and you create identities to fit in at workplaces, to fit in with peer groups, friend groups, and but you're never really truly yourself, so I dealt with that too. Now I'm 49, so that, I'd say this deep depression, there's been different things in my life trigger these depressions, and I think that happens for a lot of people, but and then the traumas add up. So you add up all the times you've had something trigger you into depression. The older you get, I would say it gets worse if you've not continuously been treated for it, because those traumas add up. That's what's happened to me. They add up and they pile on you like a ton of bricks. But I would say the last thing that triggered me to where I started to go into this spiral was a really bad breakup I had, and this one was really different. Happened to me at the end of 2019, and I'm not telling you this to blame the other person, nothing like that. We both had our issues. Things happen, but the way that relationship ended, I went into that's where my spiral started. And I felt like I had the way it ended was just speaking, I can only speak for myself, but it was horrific for me. And like I said, yes, I had issues. I'm not blaming just the other person, but I'm just telling you what led into this depression for me. There's some good points about it too, because this particular event was different than all the other events in my life, as to it ended up leading to where I realized, like I said, it's come around to where I finally realized I wasn't authentic through my life. So I've realized I needed to self-reflect. This situation caused me to start, a lot of things happen. It's a lot of detail, but first time in my life I started to self-reflect. Deeply self-reflect about my own existence, about my own choices, about who am I? Who am I really? I mean, and then realizing that a lot of things I would do were characters, basically like acting in a play. That there were only pieces of the real me in these characters, to try to cope with life, try to get by, because I was never really brought up with any stability as far as I would say real mentorship. That's probably has to do with it. Sure, genetics play a part in this sort of stuff too. That's why people that don't go through depression, don't go through mental illness, they can't understand, they stigmatize it, because we all have different resilience to things. We all come up in different homes, some more solid than others. We all have different genetic backgrounds. We all have different traumas that happen to us, different circumstances that happen to us, and we all have different degrees of resilience to these things. That's why I say you have some people have been very rich and powerful that are no longer with us because they couldn't deal with the pain of what they were dealing with. So depression, it don't discriminate. Mental illness don't discriminate. It comes to us all in this world. It can come to any of us in this world at any age, at race, gender. Don't matter if you're in poverty, if you're rich. I've lost friends over it. Well, yeah, I mean, I'd say I've lost friends in my life for various reasons, but there's even a friend of over 20 years I'm not speaking to now because of the stigmatizing of my condition. Because you'll get people, to give you an idea, you'll get people that are going to tell you just shut it off, it's not real. They're going to tell you your condition, your depression or personality disorders or whatever you're going through, it's fake. Just think positive, just stop thinking about whatever. They don't understand, it just doesn't work like that for people going through these sorts of things. That not everybody's brains work the same. It's kind of like, if people can't see you're physically ill, they want to dismiss it. If they don't see that you got a broken bone or something else going on, they want to dismiss it. And I think it's really, this sort of stuff's no different than having a cancer of the mind or cancer of the soul. Kind of say that's more accurate. It's more accurate with depression and these sorts of things, kind of like a cancer of the soul, where you feel empty, dead inside, things like that. You don't feel, a lot of times you wonder, what's this all for? What's this existence? And it's like I told you, I don't care. I've cried many times. I've broke out and cried just because, because it's the way you feel. Life hurts, life hurts. But anyway, in 2019, when this breakup happened and triggered me, it was very profound for me, and felt like I had lost everything. And like I said, it's not just this one event. I had so many other events happen in my life. This was just the latest thing, and it just happened to go along with all the other traumas that ever happened to me. My work life wasn't the best either at the time. The things I was dealing with in society sucked, dealing with people and the crudeness of people I worked with, and dealing with the narcissism of people I worked with, having to battle with people at my job all the time. I'm sure many of you can relate to that sort of stuff too. And it's not like you even want to be at the workplace. It's not like it's, for a lot of us, that's another thing. You're not passionate about what you're doing, but you have to go do it because you need money. And the only reason I've survived as long as I have now is because I had savings when I uh, left that job. And well, I didn't leave it in 2019 when the breakup happened, but I left it in 2021 because I just couldn't bear it anymore. My depression was getting worse, and I had savings. I had a lot of savings, and I've lived off credit. But now I will say I'm at a point in my life where that's why I went to therapy, because I'm in a dangerous point now where, you know, I'm just living day to day. And I know that's crucial. And therapy has helped a little bit, but I've only been going the last 4 or 5 months. You know, it's not like you dig out of a hole just overnight, but I have made some improvements. And it just takes, that's the best I can say about something like this. It just takes time. But I guess I'm talking about this too for people that I know are like this, that are, I've seen people on YouTube, I've seen a couple others, I think, that have talked similar. There's people in life I've met too that I know somebody personally that unalived, and when, 20 something years ago that I knew. He had a lot of things going on, but it happens all the time. People act like it don't happen because if they don't see it, they just don't think about it, or it's weird how society works, isn't it? That was something when this happened to me in 2019, and I started doing all this deep self-reflection for the first time really in my life. I was like, wow, not only have I been fake, but it's because I'm trying to fit in with a lot of fake society. It happens to be that I think, in my experience, most people I've come across, I think, are like that. They're conditioned, they're conditioned to do what pleases others. A lot of time or to fit in. They want success to impress others. They want material goods to impress others, right? A lot of times people get married sometimes they truly love somebody and get married, but how many times do people get married just so they can say they're married, or it fits into their religious culture, or it fits into their family culture, or it fits into being pressured? And that can be with a lot of things. People go to college sometimes because they're pressured. They take jobs they don't like because they're pressured. There's all people out there every day, doing things they don't want to do, and living a fake life and creating fake character of themselves to be a people pleaser. And a lot of times I did it too. I tried to be a people pleaser. Didn't want rejection, whether it be from a girlfriend or from friends, or whatever. In the workplaces I was in, my experience in workplaces, everyone's is different. For me, you could copy and paste people from one job to the other. The stereotypes, the backstabbers, the narcissistic managers, or the managers sleeping around with the personnel, the employees, playing favorites. And for me, it was either you kiss ass, and so you can be in the in crowd, and that was never really me. I will say that's one of my authentic things about myself, I guess, where I could never do it. So I was always having to battle the managers, battle people that I felt, because I was bullied. I was bullied as a child, bullied in school. So as an adult, you get to a point where some of us do. I was always in fights with managers and stuff over things like that. Now, where I was fake too, though, is I would usually create hyper masculine characters, so I could fight back, but they wasn't completely genuine. I'd create like a dark, hyper masculine version of myself, which is not truly me. I do have dark aspects about myself, but I'm not really hyper masculine, but I had developed that type of way about me to try to survive. I felt I had to um, try to survive in these workplaces where people are just abusive. That's been my experience. I can't speak for everybody. I'm just telling you things I've been through in my own life, and but when this all happened to me in 2019, it wasn't just a self-reflection that came to me all of a sudden. It was also I had some weird things happen to me. It might be something later I can talk more about, but things I can't explain. I had best way I could describe it is there were spiritual type things that happened. I'm not talking religion. It's just weird things on, like, I feel like there were spiritual concepts that I had never heard of before. Things just mysteriously that I would see all of a sudden on Google or YouTube that I'd never seen, and then it took me down a rabbit hole that where I guess you could say like paranormal type stuff started happening to me. It's the best way I can explain it. And I have told my therapist a little bit about that, and I thought maybe, I'll be honest, I thought maybe I was schizophrenic or something like that. But she doesn't think I am. She just said, she was saying, crazy things happen in this world. I was surprised by what she was saying, but that's true. I mean, from my experience, that is true. Just as a side note, I used to do paranormal investigation to some degree, and yeah, I had, I could vouch for that. There were weird things that happened. I can't, but I'm not gonna sit here. I used to try to act like I knew it all, or that was another fake aspect of me. Let me just act like I'll take something somebody else has said from their experience, and I'll just act like that's the gospel, and I would just tell you that's what it is. I don't know. Truth is, there's just so many things in this world that happen we don't know. I'll just say that I don't have proof of these things I'm telling you. I just know they happened. There were things that just happened to me, and it came after this relationship. But because of those experiences, it opened me up to self-reflection, opened me up to realizing I had been fake in a lot of ways throughout my life. It broke down my life, like leaving. Well, I didn't really lose that job. I left that job because I couldn't bear it anymore. I've self-isolated now. I will say after a while that can be not so good. Self-isolation can be good for a time, but it can also be detrimental. And I've been like that for a long time, where I haven't wanted to be around people that much. And I'm just now, like I said, through therapy, kind of just now climbing up out of a very, very dark pit. But basically everything in my life started breaking apart. My facade, the various masks I would wear in society. I felt like there were times I didn't want to be here anymore. I'll be honest. I had to fight that a lot too, unaliving and choosing to stay here has been hard at times. And we just don't have answers to everything. I can't tell you why that relationship triggered me. It was hard. I can't tell you why it triggered me harder than some other things in my life, but it did. To give you an example, let me turn this thing off. It's gonna make noise, but to give you an example, let me get a little bit of coffee here. almost passed away in 2010. I was in the hospital for 2 weeks and in a coma for a day. And that was from, I've had body issues throughout my life too. Like, I guess you could say maybe like body dysmorphia, things of that nature, eating issues. And I wasn't eating properly. I was taking a lot of stimulants, things like that. And it almost killed me. And I probably had complex trauma after that for a long time, maybe a couple of years, I would say. And I think I've had complex trauma through this time period too. And like I said, it's built up from a lot of things. So. But that event where I almost died wasn't as bad as this. And I can't explain that to you. But like I said, the good parts are this made me self-reflect. It's broke my life down to where it does suck having to kind of say, okay, I'm rebuilding myself from the ground up, and I don't know day to day where money's coming from now, and I am trying to get back out to work somewhere, even though it's very hard. I mean, I did try. I have tried before. I mean, out of these 4 years, there was 2 years ago, I had 7 jobs in a year. I just couldn't do it. I kept, I'm not going to blame it all on the employers. I mean, my depression was a lot of it, but I will say I was running into the same types of people I was telling you about. And it's just, my therapist has said, I've been also exhausted by society. And I say that's pretty accurate too. Exhausted by the fights with people and dealing with these types of people in places. So that's happened. This year, I had a job briefly at the beginning of the year, and then another one for a week. And the reason why I had that job for a week is because it was the same type of people, but it was on a vicious level, as where I had 2 employees trying to bully me from the first day or 2 in various ways. You had everybody in there talking about each other. You had people in there all kind of in former relationships with each other. They were even, some of them sleeping with the people next door in the gas station, sleeping with the people next door in the fast food restaurant. Just all kinds of drama, it's drama. And then one of the managers talking about his son and making fun of him. He was his stepson, and telling us strangers, me a stranger, I just started there, but how his son, he's making fun of him, say he laughs like a girl, he gets bullied at school, he gets beat up, and he deserves it, stuff like that. And I just thought that's awful. And I remember being a teenage boy and how I got bullied, and how I felt when I was laughed at, and worse than that, and some things in my childhood. So those were the kind of things I was dealing with. But anyway, this whole thing was just unique, and how it forced me to look at my life, but it's also broken down my life. And I think a lot of people go through this sometimes. I think more people go through this in life than we realize, where their lives get broke down. And I've heard sometimes it's for a better purpose, to be able to rebuild and be able to maybe do better things. I don't know. It's yet to be seen. But anyway, I'll probably get on here again and talk more. Maybe I probably will. I mean, I'm meaning to get on here, I think. I've been on here before. I mean, there's a couple of 100 followers or so on here. Some of you have probably seen me before, I'm sure, because some of the breakdowns I've had have been crazy. That's the thing too, through all of this last 4 years or so, I've had some mental breakdowns. I've had personality breakdowns that are really bad way, talking about the fake, being these fake personalities. I mean, that's the other thing about this whole situation. I mean, I went into anything I could to escape the pain, anything I could do to escape this depression, and tried to act like that relationship meant nothing to me. You know, I would try to run from that. And truth is, it meant, I mean, honestly, it meant so much to me. And I try to run from what had happened. So, you know, I tried to go into, I'll just give you an example. I got on here, I guess a couple of years ago, trying to suddenly be a Christian. And I was brought up with Christianity, but now I don't have any religion. I believe in some spiritual principles, I guess you could say now, but I'm not religious or anything. But I tried to go into that. I had known someone at work that was influencing me, kind of. Not that it's their fault. You know, I was trying to latch onto something like I've done throughout my life. But latched onto that. Now, you know, I'm suddenly a gospel preacher on YouTube. I have to laugh at it because I've had some personality issues, breaks, mental breakdowns for sure. And that this whole situation's caused me to have to analyze all of that. So went through that phase, and then realized that I will say I got off later, came back on, and I went through the whole New Age movement. You know, I latched on heavy to New Age, and that can be a religion too if you get real deep into it. But I went down that rabbit hole because, you know, I was trying to look again for escape. Started talking all about that like I knew all about it. I really didn't, though. I mean, I knew some things that happened to me. Like I said, paranormal things I can't fully explain. There are things that happened to me that are very bizarre. But, you know, a lot of things I would talk about, whether it be Christianity and then New Age, you know, I'm just giving talking points from, a lot of times I was just giving talking points from what I would read or see from other people. But have I had crazy experiences that would relate to some spiritual things or, you know, paranormal things I can't explain? Yeah, I have. I've had some intense experiences. That's something that all came from the end of this relationship. But, and that took me into twin flame ideology too. And, you know, so I went down that rabbit hole. So I've been down a few rabbit holes. But what I will tell you is I can't explain really some of the things that happened to me. I can just tell you they happened. It's like I was telling my therapist, and it's like she says she's had, well, I think it helped because she's had things happen in her life so she could say, hey, you know, this world's crazy. And lots of people have. Lots of people don't want to talk about things that have happened to them, but then there are people, of course, that do. And plenty of people have said, you know, there's things that have happened. I'll say this, I think there's things about this world we can't explain, things about outer space, this world, metaphysics. There's just a lot of things we just don't, I don't know that our brains can fully comprehend some of the things that we think we know everything. How can we know everything? I mean, so, but you know, there's people here, there's probably a few people still here, maybe they'll see this that followed me back then. That's possible, but hey, it's okay. You know, I'm here to tell the truth. I want to be honest. It is what it is. You know, you get to 49 years old, you've managed to stay here and not do something stupid through a lot of things where I felt like, you know, honestly, I'm like, why am I even here? But I am. And while I don't think I'm that resilient, sometimes my therapist thinks I am. So I try to look at that and say, well, I guess I am still fighting and still trying to improve And then I figure I get on here because, I'm no guru. I don't have the answers to everything, but I know, hey, I know other people suffer. And there's men that suffer too. And, don't let people stigmatize you. If you cry, you cry, man. I mean, people put too much emphasis, in my opinion, on this has come with me learning more about authenticity. People put way too much emphasis on how you're supposed to act as a gender, or they try to stereotype it. I guess is what I'm saying. That you gotta be stoic as a man all the time. You gotta always never cry, never show feelings, and don't let anybody tell you. I've had women tell me it was bull for me to cry. I've had, if you're crying for manipulation or something, or you're trying to get something over on somebody, that's one thing. But when you're just crying because you're depressed, you don't want to deal with your life, or you're having mental issues and you need help, and somebody else is downing you for it, they have problems. You have to. That's something I've had to realize, that these people that do these sorts of things, they're usually fake themselves, and have problems. Or if they're the type of people trolling people, like on here, there's people that do it all the time on here, troll people, hurt people for no reason. And it's not even just kids in mama's basement. I mean, you got professional people that troll people on here. I mean, it's happened to me before. All walks of life do that to other people. Usually they're living a fake existence too. And you just have to realize that depression and all these mental things happen to women, men, like I said, all races, genders, ages, income don't matter. You could be poor, you could be homeless, you could own a mansion, and it still hits you. There could be something trigger you, and that's it. But anyway, I'll get back on here probably and talk more, but anyway, I'm gonna go for now. Bye.